I was really frustrated that I was learning about abolition, and then people in my own collective could not think critically about it. I realized they were being groomed by these larger non-profits. Corey Lee Wren. When sociologist and vegan activist Corey Lee Wren appeared on Amelia Leese's podcast, Think Like a Vegan, she used the concept of grooming to explain some of the structural elements of the animal movement, such as the dominant language of the movement, and where the finances are concentrated. In short, the power relations of the movement. Corey's research was focused on groups such as PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, whereas the most influential grooming gang in the movement in recent years has been the Melanie Joy Cartel. Corey writes, "Compassion over killing would come down to talk, and people from PETA had come down to talk, and basically what they were doing is grooming, if I dare say, a generation of student activists to align with their perspective of how to do animal rights." From about 2011 to 2013, a frequent guest on the Animal Rights Zone platform was Melanie Joy, who coined the vegetarian concept of carnism. She claimed that she had met two brilliant European strategists, Sebastian Zosch, whom she later married, the director of the German Vegetarian Society, and Tobias Leenert, who worked for the Belgium Vegetarian Society. At this time, the bottom was falling out of vegetarianism, and the focus was shifting to veganism, or at least a reduced version of veganism. With fewer and fewer opportunities to talk at vegetarian organized events, the cartel infiltrated on the face of it vegan spaces, such as the International Animal Rights Conference in Luxembourg. They became keynote speakers there, using this space to promote their brand of reducitarianism. Recent talks by Leenert there include the idea that small-scale free-range farming is aligned with vegan values, and that vegans may consume fishes and eggs. After all, Joy had declared in 2009 in Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs and Wear Cows, An Introduction to Carnism, that eggs and dairy could be procured without violence. Meanwhile, their pro-veg organization pushes the same messages in events that they sponsor. The grooming continues. The most radical period for veganism as a social movement and a philosophy was in the 1940s and especially the 1950s. By the 1980s, however, that initial radicalism had been replaced by moderation and animal welfarism. It is a deep irony that, as the vegan society weakened at claims-making, the 1980s and the first half of the 1990s saw a surge in rights-based animal rights thinking via the work of, in the main, Tom Regan, Gary Francione and Joan Dunayer. Only a small minority of modern animal advocates will have heard of these people, least of all Dunayer. This brings us back to social movement theory and Corey Lee Wren's expertise. A common experience for social movements in general is that, as they grow, they tend to moderate and professionalize. This is what happened to the animal movement, which has retreated to its baseline position of animal welfarism, aligned with a food-oriented version of veganism. In her interview with Amelia Leese, Corey talked about times when the movement's more anarchic and free-thinking grassroots held some influence. The grassroots of the movement, along with the people who join them through, for example, their advertising, are the targets of corporate grooming gangs. The grooming has apparently worked. The once strong network of local groups has weakened, if not completely disappeared. The vegetarian concept of carnism is popular in the movement. Leading influencers toe the line and talk about the reduction of animal suffering, and virtually everyone's favorite word is cruelty. By and large, the modern animal movement uses the same language as the RSPCA, the ISPCA in Ireland, and the non-abolitionist humane societies. In Chapter 6 of Animal Rights, Human Rights, Entanglements of Oppression and Liberation, sociologist David Nybert writes, "This chapter will suggest that the entangled nature of the oppression of humans and other animals not only has deep economic roots, supported by a powerful state apparatus, but also has considerable public support among a citizenry raised in a society in which powerful corporations exert extraordinary control over beliefs and values. Grooming within the animal movement results in the forces that should articulate the most critical views have had their radical edges knocked off, and their members are subsumed into mainstream moderation. As a consequence, members of the Melanie Joy Cartel have made careers telling animal advocates that veganism is about food, that highlighting veganism as the end goal of the vegan movement is a mistake, and that talk about meat reduction is far more pragmatic than extreme ideas like genuine veganism. I find myself increasingly looking in on a movement that, Well, I was going to say looking in on a movement that I don't recognize. But sadly I do recognize it. I recognize it because I know what animal welfarism and reducitarianism looks like.